EU-Turkey statement on migration and its historical perspective, practical experiences, and future insights. This online event is hosted by EU-Turkey Friendship Group, ASAM Brussels office, and ASAM headquarters as well. Behind this online event, there is such an hard work done by a lot of persons. I would like to take this opportunity to thank them all, especially Mrs. İpek Tekdemir, EU-Turkey Friendship Group Secretary General, and our communication team. If without them, this online event wouldn't have happened. In a couple of minutes, I will be giving the floor to our distinguished guests. But first, let me say one or two things about this topic. It has been almost 5 years since EU and Turkey signed this statement on migration. Back then, according to UN, numbers of irregular migrants reached nearly 10,000 persons per day. Thousands of people have died in the Mediterranean Sea, coming from the forgotten part of the world, chasing for a better life. Some lost their entire family, some lost fathers, mothers, children, siblings. And this brought us to this statement, which we will be discussing shortly. Right after the document is signed, number of people trying to pass the Mediterranean Sea dropped drastically, like 97%. And we all thought that problem solved and relieved, but it was clearly not the case. As humans, we always think that humanity moves always forward, but millions of people still lacking lowest livelihood and still facing war. In 2015 and 2016 in particular, world has seen terrible things which has never seen before. People drowning in the sea, falling from way too overcrowded boats, being pushed back by so-called law enforcement. We are going to discuss the status quo and what needs to be done to improve the statement on migration. We have experts, decision makers on this special occasion. We are going to focus different aspects of this statement, legally speaking, humanitarian-wise, and we are going to try to dig deep. And without further ado, I would like to present Mrs. İpek Tekdemir, EU-Turkey Friendship Group Secretary General. She would like to say some words before we get started. İpek.
Thank you. Thank you, Murat. Your Excellencies, dear guests, I would like to start by thanking the Association for Solidarity with Asylum Seekers and Migrants, ASAM, in particular Murat, Barış, Koralp, for cooperating in the organization of this event. It is a privilege to gather such distinguished speakers for today. In this regard, I would like to thank the former President of Romania and today who is a member of the European Parliament, Mr. Traian Băsescu. In addition, today is an important day in the calendar of Romania. This is called Martișor. This day, in fact, symbolizes the rebirth of nature with spring starting. It is also recognized as UNESCO Cultural World Heritage for Humankind. Congratulations, Mr. President. I would further like to thank Deputy Foreign Minister Ambassador Faruk Kaymakçı and the General Coordinator of ASAM, İbrahim Kavlak, to make this event possible for us today. Before I start, I would like to give a brief information about our platform. The EU-Turkey Friendship Group is a cross-party, impartial platform that endeavors to enhance quality dialogue among the European and Turkish decision makers, the business community and civil society, as well as promotes, and this is very important, our common values through cultural events in order to bring Turkish and the EU public opinion closer together. The Friendship Group aims at analyzing and highlighting important issues emanating from Turkey's geostrategic position and put Turkey into a broader context. Our aim is to foster constructive dialogue through gatherings like one of example today. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know and are today's important topic, the number of people forcibly displaced across the world due to conflict, violence, and persecution hit record levels. According to UNHCR numbers, migrants globally reach an estimated 272 million, which is 51 million more than in 2010. As the migrants crisis became a serious global matter, Turkey has stepped up to the plate and taken important responsibilities. I hope this digital meeting will lead to even more productive projects. Before I finish, I would once like to thank the Association for Solidarity with Asylum Seekers and Migrants, ASAM, for their dedicated work benefiting refugees and migrants in Turkey, and you all for your participation. I look forward to a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, İpek. Mrs. İpek Tekdemir, thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your help for organizing this event. And ladies and gentlemen, we are moving forward. We have this privilege to have here today Mr. Traian Băsescu, former president of Romania, and he is now a member of the European Parliament. This is such an honor for your presence here, Mr. President. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, and for everybody, I wish a good day, a good week. We are on the beginning of a new week. But looking at the migration problem, we don't have a lot of reasons to be extremely happy in these days. And I will not discuss about the global migration phenomenon. I will look at the reason of our meeting of today, the migrants mainly from Syria. In fact, in Syria is a dramatic humanitarian situation because 5.6 million Syrians left the country and another 6 million was moved inside of the country due to war effects. Practically, we discuss about 12 million Syrians which are in an extremely difficult situation, looking at the life conditions, looking at the impressive number of children which are affected by this migration phenomenon and by the poverty, by insecurity. Talking about our deal between European Union and Turkey, I have to remark the reality that is a big success. Even if the parts have disputes for one or another reason, even if the parties are blaming sometime without of many serious reasons, reality is that this deal signed in 2016 was with an extraordinary effect. And for example, if in 2016 the average daily rate of migrants coming from Syria to Europe on the Greek islands was about 1,800 per day, in these days we have 80 migrants average per day at the level of year 2020. This is the effect of a good deal. Of course, is a lot of place for better developments in this respect. And I am very convinced that, first of all, the problem of migrants is the problem of Europe. We are the final destination, European Union. We must be the first responsible for the situation of migrants which came illegally on our territory, coming from the idea that the EU countries have the obligation to protect their own borders. We cannot ask somebody else to look at the security of our borders. It's clear that we are not able to do that. in actual conditions. That means we need the help of neighboring countries to control the migration process. And Turkey is the most important player in this respect. On the Turkey are now located about 4 million migrants from Syria. Turkey is looking for the conditions for these peoples, is looking for integrating them on the social life of Turkey and so on. Turkey have huge costs on that. And most probably, European Union, in order to have a new deal, first of all, must fulfill the obligations assumed on the initial deal from 2016, and later to discuss about the new deal, because Turkey must be considered a country which have interest. Unfortunately, by several times, European Union believe that only the Union interest must be covered, but the interest of a country like Turkey are neglected by many times. Europeans must understand that Turkey is a regional power from all points of view. Even if I discuss about the Turkey market, even if I discuss about the Turkish army and so on. By several times I see very aggressive statements, for example, regarding Libya. But nobody cry about the intervention of Russians in favor of Mukhtar. Tough statements regarding consolidation of border security in Syria. When the Americans left the Syria, the Turkish army was the one to secure the border of Turkey. Is the obligation of each state. Or nobody cried that Russians deployed 2,000 troops in Nagorno-Karabakh, but everybody blamed Turkey that was ready to support Azerbaijan in Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Or nobody blamed Russia being involved in Syria, but they are ready to blame Turkey because they tried to help Bosnia. All these statements by several times affect consistently the political decision in Ankara and in same time in Brussels. For this reason, the key element in new agreement with Turkey, new migration agreement with Turkey, must come from the idea and from the reality that Turkey have interests on the region. If we will apply this normal principle, for sure we will have a good deal, and Turkey will be very much involved in controlling this process of migration in European Union. My last remarks. European Union must focus the enormous resources for Syrians, because otherwise the wave of migration will not be stopped. In this humanitarian situation from Syria, the money and the assistance of European Union is a key element. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your kind words towards our country, Turkey. Turkey indeed hosting a lot of migrants, asylum seekers. The vast majority are from Syria, but they're coming from they're coming from all over the world. So we have a problem. We have a problem in common. And we are moving forward. Thank you for your contribution, Mr. President. It was such an honor here. And ladies and gentlemen, let me present you İbrahim Vurgun Kavlak, General Coordinator of ASAM. He is such an experienced guy. I mean, tens of years of experience on the field. Let's hear what he has to say. İbrahim Vurgun Kavlak, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Murat. Distinguished Minister, distinguished President, honorable members of the European Parliament EU-Turkey Friendship Group, honorable members of European Commission's executive agencies, respectful academicians, representatives of NGOs, dear participants. I welcome you all to this meeting organized by ASAM Brussels and the European Parliament EU-Turkey Friendship Group. 2021 is the 5th year of the EU-Turkey statement, which was agreed between the EU heads of governments and Turkey to end the irregular migration from Turkey to the EU and replace it instead with legal, safe and alternative pathways of resettlement of refugees to the European Union on 18th of March 2016. Before highlighting a few critical issues shaped around the agreements, I would like to start with some general information that you are already familiar with about migration statistics in the world and in Turkey. The number of forcibly displaced due to war, conflict, persecution, human rights violations, and events seriously disturbing public order has been growing constantly in all around the world. Therefore, forced displacement is much more common nowadays and is no longer a short-term and temporary phenomenon. Turkey still maintains its position as the country hosting the highest number of refugees in the world since 2014. With the conflict and crisis that broke out in Syria 2011, approximately 5.6 million Syrians have been forced to migrate to neighboring countries, namely Turkey, Lebanon, and Jordan. As a result of this mass migration movement beginning in 2011, based on the official records released by the Directorate General of Migration Management, Turkey hosts about 3.6 million Syrian refugees. In addition to this population, around 400,000 asylum seekers from other nationalities, mostly from Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, and Somalia, continue to live in Turkey. Considering that Syrian crisis will be completing its 10th year in the coming days, we can see the growing population in Turkey over the years. Since the Syrian population in Turkey is very young, it increases every day naturally with the newborn babies. It is reported that more than 550,000 Syrian babies are born in Turkey since 2011. However, just 10 years ago, in 2011, the total asylum seeker and refugee population in Turkey was only 20,000, according to the UNHCR Turkey statistics. At this very point, to show how striking the population actually is, when we compare the population of the 0 to 18 age group with the children born in Turkey included, and the total Syrian population to the population of each of the European states, we see that there is a population living in Turkey that exceeds the combined population of 8 European states. This is an indication that the efforts to be made and must be made for this population create a variety and significance that nearly requires governance just as a country does. Of course, if we also include the number of non-Syrian in addition to the Syrian population, the total population goes up one step further and reaches 4 million. When we look at the figures in question, we can draw the conclusion that Turkey is shouldering an enormous burden since the beginning of the influx. Even though the international community, particularly the United Nations and the EU, provided significant support, there is still too much work to be done. And that in this sense, the international community should provide more support to share this responsibility. The child and youth population aged between 0 to 24 is over 2.2 million. Regretfully, we cannot possibly claim that this group shares deep emotional, cultural, historical, and social ties with Syria. Most of the Syrian children born in Turkey do not even know Arabic. In consideration of this fact, the more time passes, the more difficult it becomes for this population to return. I think to say the EU-Turkey relations is likely to be shaped around the migration issue in the next decade would not be an exaggeration. Therefore, considering the fact that Turkey is a transit and target country and a neighboring country to Syria, the refugee population in Turkey will likely to increase gradually. It is very important for Turkey and international stakeholders to develop a long-term strategy and international cooperation to create practical and effective responses. For the future of both Syria and the countries where Syrians are seeking asylum, especially like Turkey, increased support should be provided to refugees immediately, especially in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic. Yet the mentioned support should go beyond offering additional funding. As you might all remember, in 2015, the number of refugees and migrants reached Europe, risking their lives by using dangerous sea and land routes in the hope of seeking asylum in the EU, exceeded 1 million. Of these, almost 400 were missing, believed drowned. This indeed clearly established that the European asylum system was not ready for a sudden migratory influx. Member states adopted individual policies. While some countries didn't accept any refugees, Germany alone hosted 1 million refugees in a year. With the number of deaths at sea rose to record levels, the EU-Turkey statement agreed on 18 March 2016 to end the flow of irregular migration from Turkey to the EU and replace it with organized, safe, and legal channels to Europe was an important step towards achieving an humanitarian solution of the problem. With the statement, irregular arrivals sharply dropped by 97%, while the number of lives lost at sea has decreased equally. While continuous efforts need to be made by all sides and all EU member states, the statement proved its effectiveness in terms of improving the EU's border security concerns, helping to alleviate some of the overburden on Turkey and supporting refugees. Turkey fulfilled its commitment to take measures against migrant smugglers and made cooperation closely on resettlement and return. It is recently announced by Turkey's Foreign Minister, Mr. Çavuşoğlu, that Turkey has stopped 1.3 million people attempting to cross its borders since 2015. We believe that it would be useful to discuss several aspects of the statement of 18 March from an NGO perspective. Remembering the fact that the number of monthly crossing into Greece was above 200,000 in October 2015. First and foremost, when observing the situation before and after March 18, the decrease in the number of deaths due to the reduction in crossing in the Aegean is an extremely pleasing development. However, with regard to the second aspect of 18 March statement, within the framework of the one Syrian in return of another rule, the number of Syrians settled into EU countries has remained at 27,885. Furthermore, on account of the fact that the necessary sensitivity for the resettlement and settlement of vulnerable groups, in particular, has been unable to form, and that no programs, additional measures have been able to develop over time, it would be noteworthy to emphasize that the most effective way to combat irregular migration is to open the way to certain means such as legal pathways and resettlement. With regard to the third article of the statement and in terms of the measures taken to prevent irregular migration through Turkey to Greece, various adverse concrete incidents have currently emerged, leading to a violation of rights due to pushbacks, which could also be seen in the Pazarkule example of 2020 that started right on this day last year. There are also discussions owing to the fact that the EU countries approaching of fighting against irregular migration, particularly by European non-governmental organizations, has turned into a perception of fighting against migrants. Again, with regard to the fourth article of the statement, another significant issue is the non-implementation of the principle of activating the voluntary humanitarian admission scheme once the irregular crossing between Turkey and the EU are ending or have been substantially reduced. With regard to the fifth article of the statement, the non-implementation of the principle of accelerating the fulfillment of the visa liberalization roadmap after all benchmarks have been met has led to a different perspective to develop among the public in Turkey towards the EU and migration-related matters. The perception of sharing the responsibility burden being replaced by the transfer of responsibility burden has started to cause different negative views and approach towards migration and migrants. With regard to the sixth article of the statement and the facility for refugees, to what extent the solutions generated by the 3 plus 3 billion euros to be provided will contribute to durable solutions should be addressed once again by taking into account of the amount and sustainability of this funding. Last of all, the securitization approach developed by the Copenhagen School that forms the basis for the prevention, decrease of irregular migration and flow of asylum seekers becoming more dominant by deviating from the principles of implementing international agreements like the 1951 Geneva Convention and the European Convention on Human Rights could create permanent adverse effects in migration management. Therefore, I would like to convey that it might be necessary to re-examine this method, which is utilized in the management of migration and the changing perspectives. EU-Turkey migration routes are historically among the most important pathways. The 18 March statement comprised an understanding that involves shorter-term solutions. The area of migration should be reconstituted based on a broader perspective and more comprehensive and encompassing cooperation. In case of not being able to form a mechanism in the area of migration, similar to a regional cooperation or migration platform following the 18 March statement, there will be a risk that the medium and long-term results of this statement, which is considered to be functional in the short term by EU, will not have been calculated successfully. Although the mobility in irregular migration, which had become stagnant with the 18 March statement, but had started to increase as of the second half of 2019, has entered a less intense period again with the COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, it is possible to return to a period where the number of deaths will increase. Therefore, wishing for the development of a foundation that will offer solutions and living opportunities compatible with human dignity, I would like to thank our ASAM Brussels Representative Office, EU-Turkey Friendship Group, and respectful participants once again, and hope that it will be a productive event. Best regards.
Thank you, Ibrahim Vurgun Kavlak, General Coordinator of ASAM Headquarters. And we are moving forward. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Deputy Foreign Minister of Turkey, Mr. Ambassador Faruk Kaymakçı. And the floor is yours, Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister.
Thank you very much, dear President, dear Chairman of Turkey-EU Friendship Group, İbrahim Bey, İpek, Murat, all those friends, you know, from the European Commission and from NGOs, I would like to greet you from Ankara. First, let me start with two corrections. One is that, you know, when we talk about the borders of Europe and borders of NATO start in the southeastern borders of Turkey. So in some speeches, I realized that when people refer to Europe's, they are talking, you know, beyond the Aegean Sea, which is not, of course, acceptable to Turkey. So Europe starts at Turkey's southeastern borders. Let's not forget this. And beyond Turkey is the rest of Europe. Second thing is that 18 March statement on migration. You know, 18 March statement is not only about migration. It has 6 main dimensions. Of course, one dimension is migration, but it is also about Turkey's accession process. It is about customs union between Turkey and the EU. It is visa liberalization. It is counterterrorism, and it is about Turkey-EU high-level dialogue meetings and Turkey-EU summits. So, of course, today we will only focus on one dimension, which is about migration. Of course, on the migration part, we can make an assessment of where we are today. As it was already referred by the previous speakers, the number of you know, illegal and irregular crossings before the statement was more than 7,000 a day in 2015 and beforehand. And until the statements, we had probably around 1 million Syrians who have been able you know, to reach the rest of Europe going through Turkey. So, of course, we had the you know, 18 March statement, and then, of course, on the migration part, we made some commitments. Turkey made 2 commitments, and EU made 4 commitments. What are the commitments by Turkey? Turkey said, I will take, you know, anyone who was able to go to the Greek islands illegally, I will take them back. I will readmit them. So we call this one-to-one deal. And Turkey has fulfilled its commitment of one-to-one. You know, whoever was returned from the Greek islands were taken by Turkey. But we know lately Greece decided to move some of these people to the mainland. And of course, it created some sort of pull factor. We hope that we can find a solution to this problem. The second commitment by Turkey was to prevent irregular migration. So Turkey did everything to prevent irregular migration after 18 March 2016. And if you look at the number of people who were, you know, stopped on the mainland in Turkey, I mean, almost, you know, 400,000 people every year. Only in 2020, we have stopped, you know, 1,200, mostly Asians, non-Syrians. So Turkey has taken measures, you know, I mean, in the country, but also on the shores of the Aegean Sea. So if you look at the number of traffickers who were detained and you know, put in prison, you can also see the number. So Turkey has taken its responsibility seriously, and thanks to the measures that we have taken, the number of illegal crossings went down from 70,000 to less than 70 when we start implementing the 18 March statement. So Turkey basically kept 2 promises pledged in the 18 March statement migration dimension. When it comes to the EU side, so we can assess the situation in the last 5 years. So where are we in terms of EU commitments? In terms of one-to-one deal, EU has fulfilled its commitment, and I would say even more than 10 times. So we have received around 2,200 people from the Greek islands, and in return, EU has taken around, as Ibrahim Bey mentioned, around 28,000 in the format of one-to-one deal. So this promise was fulfilled by the EU. But again, these numbers are quite small. Because if you look at the numbers that we have in Turkey, it is not even comparable. So we are talking about today 3.7 million Syrians who are still in Turkey. And we are still, I mean, it was referred, almost 600,000 babies were born in Turkey, the Syrian babies. And also, not only the Syrians in Turkey, but Turkey is also doing its best to help the Syrians in Syria, within Syria. We are talking about 5.5 million internally displaced Syrians around Idlib and also in northern Syria. So these numbers are huge, and it's a lot. So, but anyway, it is better that we should also have an idea of these numbers. The second promise by the EU was EU would accelerate 3 + 3, 6 billion euros, to be flowed to the Syrians in Turkey. By the way, this money is not given to Turkey. This money is spent for Syrians in Turkey. So some people, believe that, this 6 billion is given to Turkey. It is not given to Turkey, so it is going to the Syrians. And this 6 billion, of course, we wanted, this money to be spent as quickly as possible. As of today, only 3.5 billion euros have been entirely spent, or have reached the Syrians. The other 2.5 is in the pipeline. Of course, the full 6 billion has been dispersed. Has been contracted from the EU side, and most of it was dispersed. But the issue is that this money has not been, entirely spent yet. It has not reached the Syrians. Why I am underlining this? Because the Syrian crisis, the migration crisis, cost Turkey more than 40 billion euros so far. So, and we are talking about 6 billion euros for the entire EU system. So you see the burden, and I think we have to focus on burden sharing. And if you take, the EU GDP, average GDP, and Turkish GDP, it is almost 1/3. So I think EU should do more, and EU, should do fast. The third promise, which was given by the EU, was a program which is called Voluntary Humanitarian Admission Scheme. So with this program, EU member states were voluntarily, supposed to take some Syrians. But this program has been blocked by some member states, and it has never come into practice. Why is it important? Because this program was a message to the Syrians. Don't try to go illegally. There will be a legal way for you waiting. And this legal way was supposed to come. But this, unfortunately, was blocked by a few member states, and it is not there. Because if you look at the whole migration deal, what was the message to the Syrians? Don't go illegally to the Greek islands, to the rest of Europe. Stay in Turkey. EU will help you. And there will be a legal way, that is voluntary humanitarian admission scheme, and you can try to go illegally. So legally, through the voluntary humanitarian admission scheme. But this program has not been put into practice, and this is why lately, especially in the last 1.5 years or in the last 2 years, we again started seeing some increase in the number of illegal crossings or number of attempts to travel to the rest of Europe illegally. So this is the third promise has never been kept by the EU, not at all. The fourth pledge by the EU was that EU would cooperate with Turkey, and also the member states would cooperate with Turkey in northern Syria. If you look at Article 9 of 18 March statement, you will see clearly that the member states were supposed to work with Turkey to create better conditions in northern Syria, but also to enable safe returns. Again, this promise was never kept by the EU, and actually this was maybe the last drop in the glass, which brought the 18 March statement, migration dimension into suspension, because Turkey had to organize, as President Băsescu mentioned, some operations in northern Syria. By the way, President, when we were not only defending our borders, but we were also defending the borders of Europe and borders of NATO when we had these operations in northern Syria. So we actually even asked NATO and our allies to intervene together against Daesh, who tried to change the demography in northern Syria, or some of the PKK, PYD, YPG terrorist forces. But unfortunately, our allies didn't want to, act with us. And of course, when we had to, conduct these 3 military operations, instead of, getting support in northern Syria from our allies, we got criticism. And also, some EU member states decided to ban arms exports to Turkey. And this was of course, as I mentioned, this was the last drop in the full glass. And then 28 February 2020, Turkey decided not to implement the migration, dimension of the 18 March statement, which means that Turkey is not anymore, trying to prevent illegal crossings. And second thing is that Turkey is not taking anyone from the Greek islands, in the format of one-to-one deal. So then, of course, this is not a situation where we can survive, because the numbers are big and the problem is there. And again, as President mentioned, this is not a Syrian problem. This is not a Turkey problem. It is a problem of Europe. And most of the people coming from Syria, they are not aiming mostly for Turkey, but they are aiming for the rest of Europe. They are aiming maybe for Berlin, for Paris, or for Stockholm. So let's be realistic, and we have to find a solution together to this problem. So on the 9th of March 2020, President Erdogan, von der Leyen, and Michel came together to do, to check what we can do together to address this migration problem. And then they decided that 18 March statement should be renewed with of course, all of its dimensions, from accession to customs union, from migration to visa liberalization, all dimensions. And they have asked Minister Çavuşoğlu and the High Representative Borrell to work on a renewed 18 March statement. But unfortunately, our Greek and Greek Cypriot friends, they decided to link everything to everything, and they blocked our negotiations with the European Commission. And because we have some issues around the island of Cyprus, we cannot even discuss migration issue. So this is where we are now. Basically, again, because of the drilling activities around the island of Cyprus, you know that the EU decided to take some, I would say, counterproductive measures to cut dialogue with Turkey. So we don't have high-level dialogue meetings, we don't have Turkey-EU summits, and all those things. And so we cannot talk to each other, but we only talk against each other, unfortunately. So including the migration issue. But hopefully, from now on, we hope that we can adopt a positive agenda. At least Turkey's position is very clear. We want to see progress in our relations with Greece. and we want to see progress on the island of Cyprus between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, and hopefully in March summit, if the EU adopts a positive agenda in Turkey relations, there are three areas we can immediately start working. Of course, high-level dialogue meetings should start immediately, on different issues from transport to energy and, counter-terrorism, foreign policy. And the second area would be start of negotiations on the update of the customs union. And the third area where we can immediately start is a renewed migration deal. So in the renewed migration deal, our expectations are the same. I mean, we have already a well-functioning system of 18 March migration deal on which we can add, some new elements. What are the new elements? First, we mentioned the Syrians, 3.7 million. But when we had this crisis in 2015, we had only 2 million Syrians in Turkey. Today, the number is 3.7 million. So their number has increased. And, funding to the Syrians in Turkey has to be increased and has to be made available, in the most efficient way. Second issue, we only talked about Syrians in the 18 March dimension, but what about others? So we have 500,000 others coming mostly from Asia, from Iran, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and also Africa. So 500,000 others. And we cannot just say that we cannot use, facility for refugees in Turkey free for you, but this is only for Syrians. I think this is not acceptable. So the new migration deal has to address also non-Syrian foreigners. And of course, the new migration deal should also include cooperation on the eastern borders, basically Turkey's borders with Iran, because every year we stop around 120,000 people coming from the eastern borders. So it is important that we also cooperate in the eastern border, not only Turkey-Syria border. Of course, the new migration deal has to involve the host communities, because now, of course, at the beginning, we focused on emergency issues, we focused on basic needs, but now we are schooling these people, we are treating them in our hospitals, and we are giving them qualifications and skills. So we need to involve line ministries in Turkey. We have to involve host communities, municipalities, but also this management has to be a joint management. So right now what we have, people in Brussels with good intention, they sit around the table, they discuss, they choose some NGOs, this is fine, but sometimes it doesn't match with the realities on the ground. So I think we need to have some sort of joint management where host communities, where Turkey side is sufficiently involved. Otherwise, we are wasting our time, we are wasting our money. There are ways that we can spend this money, EU money, in the most efficient way with the contribution of Turkey and with the contribution of Turkish NGOs as well. So basically, in the new migration deal, of course, we should also see very clear commitment by Greece not to push back people into the sea. Unfortunately, in the last 3 years, we have seen 80,000 pushbacks into the Aegean Sea. The boats of people were kicked off or exploded, and people they had to find themselves in the water, and we had to rescue them. And I think this is a situation sometimes, unfortunately, also watched silently by Frontex, and we hope that this would never ever take again place, and we hope that these pushbacks should be ended. Again, I focused on the migration part, but for the 18 March, it has 6 pillars. And when we renew the 18 March, we have to address all the 6 pillars, because Turkey-EU relations is not a transactional relation. It is not a love affair. It is not an issue of, being able to help or being able to be helped. But we see our future in the EU. We are a candidate country, not a neighbor. We are Europe, and we are defending and protecting the borders of Europe and NATO. I think, our friends and our colleagues in the rest of Europe have to look at this issue in this way. If they look at it this way, I think we will get immediately very positive results to the benefits of all of us in Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Foreign Minister of Turkey, Mr. Ambassador Faruk Kaymakçı. And we are moving forward, and now I would like to introduce you the member of the European Parliament, EU-Turkey Friendship Group Chair, Ryszard Czarnecki. Actually, he wouldn't be able to join us today because of another commitment, but thanks to his political advisor, Mrs. İpek Tekdemir, dedicated problem-solving person, he sent us a video regarding on this topic. Let's take a look at his video, and then we will be back live in a couple of minutes.
Your Excellencies, dear guests, on behalf of the EU-Turkey Friendship Group, and as the founding chair, I am honored to address all of you in the 5th year of the EU-Turkey Statement on Migration, historical perspective, practical experiences, and future insights. 5 years ago, the EU and Turkey signed the joint statement securing Europe's southwestern border from irregular migration. The cooperation with Turkey is very important and needs to continue in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, number of people forcibly displaced across the world due to conflict, violence and persecution hit record levels. In 2019, the number of migrants globally reached an estimated 272 million, 51 million more than in 2010. International migrants comprise 3.5% of the global population, compared to the 2.8% in 2000 and 2.3% in 1980. The proportion of international migrants in the world population has also risen. As the refugee crisis becomes a serious global matter, we acknowledge and value contributions of Turkey in the global refugee issue. We should also admit that Turkey is the EU's 5th largest trading partner and is situated at a very strategic location for the European security. I would like to underline the importance of the cooperation between the EU and Turkey on migration, as refugees and migrants are currently the defining issue in the domestic politics of most member states. I hope that you will have a fruitful discussion today, and I am looking forward to chair and introduce other occasions like this in the future.
And we are back. We have come to an end to the first session, and we now are going to have a short break. If this was an actual meeting, I would suggest you to get out, grab a cup of tea or grab a cup of coffee and socialize with other people, maybe exchange some business cards. But since we have COVID and this is a virtual meeting, I would suggest you maybe check your emails, take care of your children, maybe take care of your pet if you have one. And we will be here in a couple of minutes, maybe 5 or 6 minutes. But while taking care of your own business, take a look at this video done by our communication team. it shows what we have been through over the past 5 years. It's a short video. It's like 5 minutes. Don't forget to look at that video as well. And we will be here in the second session in 5 or 6 minutes. Thank you all for contributing this online event, especially Mr. Former President Traian Băsescu and Deputy Foreign Minister of Turkey, Faruk Kaymakçı, and dear all distinguished guests for putting value to this online event. See you in the second session. We are live in this special occasion. We are discussing the 5th year of the EU-Turkey statement on migration and its historical perspective, practical experiences, and future insights. We discussed in the first session, we listened to our distinguished speakers' remarks, and we had an opening remarks, and now we are going to try to dig deep for this situation with our experts. Now we have Murat Şen, legal counselor to permanent representative of Turkey to the European Union. We are going to start with him. Let me ask you, Mr. Murat Şen, what legal aspects should we use in order to overcome this issue and in order to improve this migration deal?
Thank you very much. Before getting into the legal issues, let me talk a little bit more broader on where we are in EU-Turkey statement and the facility for refugees in Turkey, if you allow me. So, although our Deputy Minister Kaymakçı was there, I listened to him a little bit. And as usual, he had a broad coverage of issues, and he talked about almost everything that is difficult for me now to continue after him. But still, I will try. And I also would like to extend my gratitude to the colleagues in the Commission. I know that they are going to talk after me. The facility for refugees in Turkey, it was first of all, now the current 3+36 billion is going to end this year. And when we look back, this created apart from the humanitarian part of the issue, which is not, I'm not going to talk about it because I'm going to talk more about the political and the administrative part of it. The existing facility for refugees in Turkey has created an excellent working relation with EU and the Commission. That I can perfectly say it. And my colleagues who are going to talk after me after a while will, I guess, confirm this. We had an excellent team headed by Mr. Avşarata from the Vice Presidency, and a very robust and highly qualified people working under him. So we have created an excellent co-learning working relationship with the EU. And I believe that this will be a basis for future cooperations, not only on migration and asylum issues, but on every other issue. This is a very good model of cooperation between Turkey and the Commission with the EU. But of course, having said this, we know the problems, and the problem is the pace of the funding. So we have, from the past, we have raised this issue time and again to the Commission that the pace of the funding is unfortunately slow. We perfectly understand the funding system of the EU, the fund management system, based on certain rules and regulations. But this is an extraordinary situation, and this doesn't tolerate any kind of delays, because when we agreed on the EU-Turkey statement, the Syrians in Turkey were 2.5 million. Now they're almost 4 million. So things are moving fast, and we don't have much time to wait. And unfortunately, for the last couple of years, we suffered from this slow pace of allocation. And this procedure is very complicated to us, for Turkish authorities, because the certain funds have to be allocated, contracted, dispersed, and in each step, there are plenty of rules and regulations. So every time it's very difficult to follow, where we are. And this happens most of the time to our delegation, that when we were asked by Ankara, for instance, what is the situation in certain project, it is for us extremely difficult to understand if it is allocated, contracted, or dispersed. So that is one of the major difficulties. And I understand the Commission, because they have to abide by certain rules. Nevertheless, these problems we have lived and we try to sort out. And finally, we had a perfect cooperation relationship with the EU, with the Commission. And now we are looking ahead. What is it? At the end of this year, once the facility is over, what is going to happen? That is the major issue now. Everyone knows it, and you know it, and our colleagues know it, that the refugees, the Syrian refugees in Turkey, the Syrian people in Turkey, not Turkey's problem, not only Turkey's problem. It's a common problem with the EU. And therefore, if you cannot control the inflow of these refugees to Turkey, you cannot control the outflow. That's a simple fact. So we are in the same boat, and we expect the EU, the Commission, to recognize this. And there are good news. And recently, in December, the European Council have already signed a new financial assistance to Turkey after facility. That's a good sign, but of course it's too early to comment on this. But of course, this is a very crucial point. This new funding will be even more crucial than the previous 6 billion, because things in the field are changing. So the new funding for us, first of all, must be a significant amount. And it must cover a long period of time. It's not enough to have 1 year or 2 years, because there are ongoing projects, very successful projects like ESSN, CCT, conditional cash transfer. And all these funds must continue. Maybe it's understandable that there may be some changes, some adaptations, but all this must continue. And secondly, to us, the Turkish institutions must be given more role in the needs assessment and the concrete projects. Why is this? Because things, as I said, the things are different now. It's not like in the past. Now we have a 3.6 million Syrians, and half of them almost are under the age of education. And even though we are promoting the returns and we are setting for the conditions for returns, we don't know how many will return, how many will stay. But one thing is clear, that these people need education, these people will need integration. And of course, planning of new projects should involve Turkey this time. Every project should involve Turkey and Turkish institutions in the needs assessment and the realization of the project. That is a key issue, and it must be different than the first and the second stages of facility in the past. And the other issue that we expect for the new funding is that my colleagues from the EU know it very well. These exorbitant overheads paid to UN agencies and other, institutions. That is, unfortunately, that may be a need, that may be a obligation under the EU rules, but somehow this takes away a significant amount of money which would normally go to Syrians in need. That is why this time we have to be careful about it. We have to do everything to avoid overheads, particularly the high amounts of overheads. And part of this problem is that the Turkish institutions, Turkish NGOs must be given the primary role in implementing projects. That are our new expectations, let's say, for the new term. And we need to talk with the Commission in advance of all these issues. That is why now there is a positive, atmosphere in the EU-Turkey relations, and we expect the Commission at the right time to come to us and talk all this in detail. And the other issue that I would like to mention is the situation in the origin and the destination, because Syrians in Turkey cannot be taken in isolation. There is the origin and there is the destination. The origin is Syria, we know it already. These dimensions, the origin, the transit, and the destination, should be taken as a whole. So we understand and we perfectly know that the EU does not recognize the legitimacy of the Syrian regime, neither we do. And that's why back in 2016, when we agreed on the EU-Turkey statement and the facility for refugees in Turkey, it was understandable that the EU avoided to work and spend this funding to Syria. And it refrained from helping Turkey to send Syrians back to their countries. That's perfectly understandable. But now, since 2016, things has changed radically. It is true we still do not recognize the legitimacy of the regime in Syria, but as of 2018, the situation in the north of Syria has changed radically. Now, for the last couple of years, particularly northwest of Syria is cleared from the terrorist groups of Daesh and PKK and PYD, and peace and tranquility takes on hold these areas. So now it's a high time to think about helping Syrians who would like to go back to their countries, the north of Syria, in a voluntary, dignified, and safe way. So what we can do about it? Turkey is already doing it. So far, 425,000 more or less, Syrians returned in the north of Syria. And Turkey is now building brick shelters. It's more or less 50,000 for the time being. And we need funding for this, and we are constantly asking funding from the EU to help us to do this, because things has changed. And by doing this, you will not be in a position to recognize the regime, the legitimacy of the regime, not at all. But so far, unfortunately, we haven't had a positive reply. But I urge the EU and the Commission to think this twice, because things are changing, as I said. It's always possible even under the EU directive, qualification directive, Article 8, it is possible that a member state may reject asylum application because the applicant's country of origin is partially safe. That is possible. That the EU is applying this, we know that in Afghanistan, that if the part of Afghanistan is partially safe, then the member states can reject the asylum application. It's Article 8 of Qualification Directive. In this case, we are not saying the same thing. In this case, we are talking about voluntary returns. But why not, you know, if you can force returns in a country of origin where part of this country of origin is safe, why you cannot do this when part of the country is safe and the Afghan Syrians want to return voluntarily, dignified and safe way? So I think this is possible, and we have to explore this. That is what we are trying to explain to our colleagues in the Commission. So the other problem is this is the origin, and the other problem is the destination, which is the situation in Greece. And the famous problem of pushbacks. So, you know, the pushbacks, it reached to a level that these people are not only pushed back to Turkey, but also they are pushed back, or they are deported from the refugee camps. So this is it's a clear crime against humanity. And unfortunately, member states, some member states, Greece, and the EU institutions, which is Frontex, you know, involving directly, are committing, you know, being part of this crime. And at least, you know, it's maybe too early to say a crime, but at least there is a clear evidence on this. Of course, we as Turkey, we condemn this situation all the time, and I'm not going to raise the issue again and again, but I would like to draw attention on one particular point that is interesting for us, that we, as far as we know, as a candidate country, the Commission is the guardian of the EU treaties. But of course, for the last couple of years, for the last, you know, Commission colleges, there is a trend of being a geopolitical commission. That's fine, you know, being a geopolitical commission, but if you become a geopolitical commission, we doubt, you know, how much you can also be a guardian of the EU treaties. So I don't know how the Commission will balance these two, between being a geopolitical commission and being the guardian of the treaties. We see this clearly in these pushback cases. Something is happening. It's a crime against humanity, and the Commission, unfortunately, is muted. That is, you know, it's unbelievable for a candidate country such as Turkey to understand this. The Commission has been muted until the European Parliament, you know, intervened, and thanks to European Parliament, there was some movement on this. And now,
Mr. Murat, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's been like 15 minutes. Can you please kindly wrap up in maybe just 1 or 2 minutes? Thank you.
Okay, so that is part of the problem, and we expect, of course, the Commission to take on the responsibility on this. We know there are some good signs, good news that the Frontex is investigating these crimes, but we are not very hopeful that something is going to happen until and unless European Parliament and other powers intervene. But it's a pity on the side of the Commission to be muted on this issue. And maybe the last point, a couple of minutes. This situation, the migration situation, has taught good lessons for everyone, and maybe one lesson for the whole system, the whole legislation, international rules on the migration. So Turkey, we believe that is placed in a good position here, and I encourage Turkish NGOs like ASAM and others to be a platform, a hub to discuss the migration issues, the law on migration, the refugees. Things are changing fast, and today when we look at the situation, even when we look at the migration asylum package of the Commission, we see that the Geneva Convention on Refugees and of course the role of UNHCR have reached to their limits, and it's questionable if they really answer the needs, contemporary needs. That is why all this must be discussed. And I think the Turkish institutions, Turkish NGOs are in a good position with experience, excellence, and the efforts that they have spent all these years, that if there is something is going to emerge from this crisis, a new set of rules, international rules and regulations on refugees and migrants, Turkish institutions, public institutions, together with NGOs, academics, are well placed, and I think they can be a pioneer, let's say, for new beginnings, for new discussions on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Murat Şen, legal counselor to the permanent representative of Turkey to the European Union. Thank you for your remarks. And then we are moving forward with Rudvan Enk, Mr. Rudvan Enk, Turkey team leader of the DG NEAR. Let's hear about what he has to say. I believe he can hear me, and he is here. Thank you. Thank you for waiting so long. Mr. Rudvan Enk, let's hear what you have to say. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
No problem. Thank you for the invitation. I hope that you can hear me without interruption. There is some issues on the in the web. I think there's delays, there's echoes, there's a number of obstacles that we have to overcome. But I will do my best. It's good to see you. Thank you for the invitation. I see some faces that I recognize. Alexandra, for instance, Murat as well. Good to see you all. I hope everybody is well. Just to give you an overview of the facility in a few minutes. The facility for refugees in Turkey is, of course, a key component of the EU-Turkey of 2016. It is a bit of a strange beast, and I'd like to explain a little bit about the facility and how it works. The facility is, I think, very important to understand, is a coordination mechanism. It is not a financial instrument or a program. The facility, the mechanism, allows us to mobilize monies from the EU budget and contributions from member states in a efficient manner. And we do that by mobilizing existing EU assistance instruments, mainly humanitarian assistance and pre-accession assistance. So we mobilize these in a complementary fashion. The facility is has been said before, it consists of two tranches of 3 billion each, 6 billion in all, and is made up 50% EU budget and 50% member state contribution as external assigned revenue into. We focus on a number of key priority areas that have been agreed with the Turkish authorities, livelihoods, education, healthcare, and protection. But we also do municipal infrastructure. And I think it's very important to realize that the facility is project-based. There is 2 references to projects in the statement. You can check these in paragraph 9. The fact that it's some of which Murat has alluded to earlier, and I'll come back to this. The state of play as concerns the facility as it is now is following. We have programmed and contracted the 6 billion in full, and we have disbursed more than 4 billion. We will continue to disburse this year and next year, and hope to have disbursements done by 24, 25 at the latest. Why do we do that? Because the facility, as I said, is project-based, and that means that we have about 100 projects now running. That in a simplified as follows: we disburse part of the contract money in advance to get the project started. We do a second tranche if the balance completion of the project. This explains why the 6 billion have not been disbursed in one go, or quicker, as some may say. In fact, we contest the fact that we are slow. The European Court of Auditors has done an operational audit in 2018 of the facility, and concluded that we are about 5 times more quickly, faster than the average EU assistance. 5 times more quickly. We program the projects with the Turkish authorities. We have not had one single project out of the more than 100 that we have that have not been consulted in advance with the Turkish authorities. We have done 2 needs assessments, also in close cooperation with the Turkish authorities, and we do a number of different projects under the facility. 25% of the projects, you will be interested to know, for 1.5 billion euros, are so-called direct grants, which allow the Turkish authorities and the ministries concerned, notably the ministries for health, education, and labor, families, and social services, to have a direct involvement in project management. 1.5 billion worth of projects. So it's not only NGOs that we do business with, and it's not only international financial institutions or the talking about which the UN and international financial institutions are entitled, of course, we mobilize them for their age and experience, but they're entitled to a fee in order to for the service that they deliver in managing EU taxpayers' money. That's perfectly normal and is done the world over under many EU projects. These fees, however, are not exorbitant. They range between 4 and 7% of the contract value, not more. Between 4 and 7%. We have, of course, rolled out 100 projects, as I said. We have 1.8 million refugee beneficiaries of the emergency social safety net. We have 2 million beneficiaries among the refugees that are helped by facility healthcare. We have more than 600,000 refugee children that go to school thanks to the facility, and there's thousands and thousands more that benefit from protection assistance and socioeconomic support or livelihoods. 6 billion is the facility to date. Last year, our colleagues from DG ECHO have mobilized an additional 535 million to ensure the continuity of facility projects in the areas of basic needs, education and protection. Youssef, my colleague, will give you details on this. And as Murat said very rightly, we have the December Council conclusions, which confirm that the EU would be prepared to continue providing assistance to refugees and host communities in Turkey. This is the Council speaking. The Council, we do not know, and we do not know for how long. And until the Council, i.e. the Member States, have decided on this, there's little that the Commission can, of course, think about needs assessments, because things have changed, as Murat rightly said, and we need to update the needs assessment that was last done in 2018, and we can identify possible sources of revenue, but that's about it. We really depend now on Member States and Member States' agreement on what to do next to help Turkey in its commendable efforts in hosting close to 4 million refugees. I leave it at that, but I'm ready to engage in a discussion or answer any further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for sparing some of your precious time and contributing this online event. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And we are moving forward again. And this time we will have a friend, a colleague from DG ECHO, Yusuf Hamash, Turkey team leader. He will be, yes, he is right now. He's here. And it's so nice to see you again, Yusuf. And I believe you have some important things to say. The floor is yours, Yusuf.
Thanks a lot, Murat, and thanks a lot, colleagues. I hope you can hear me well, because I had some also slight problems to connect.
No, loud and clear, loud and clear. Don't worry, thank you.
Oh, perfect. But first of all, thanks a lot.
By the way,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have now 577 viewers on YouTube. That's a huge number. That's a good thing. That's a good thing that we can spread our thoughts all around the world for more than 500 people. Sorry to interrupt.
No, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot again, Murat. Maybe I will not go. I will just complement what my colleagues from DG NEAR just mentioned on behalf of the Commission. So for me, I will more focus on let's say the humanitarian leg of the facility, but not only, because maybe as a slight introduction, I just would like to remind everybody that from DG ECHO perspective, we have engaged in Turkey and within the provision of humanitarian assistance to refugees even before the facility was created. I recall since 2012, since the onset of the crisis, and not only in Turkey, but it was also in all neighboring countries such as Lebanon, Jordan, and also Iraq, to support, let's say, through humanitarian assistance. On the impact of the conflict. So this is the first element I just wanted to highlight. And then, yes, indeed, thanks to the facility mobilization, we were able to scale up and to increase, let's say, to our outreach. And as per now, and I think you already mentioned it, and Ruud as well, we are supporting more than 1.8 million refugees through various set of assistance, from cash assistance, monthly cash assistance, unconditional cash assistance, education in emergencies, more than 620,000 beneficiaries, children beneficiaries from this particular project, very successful. But also not only within those two sectors, we are also providing significant support through protection, and health as well, where, by the way, ASAM is one of our key partners in the provision of protection assistance. Having said that, the third important element that also Ruud highlighted, we are already for DG ECHO engaged in the post-facility support. Since 2020, we have mobilized more than 35 million euro in the provision of humanitarian assistance, not only to allow the USSN and the CCT, the two, let's say, flagship project providing cash assistance and education in emergency assistance to children, but in addition to that, to ensure the good continuation of our health and protection project across the country. And this is something very important. And we are also considering an additional 50 million for the year of 2020-21. So long story short, as I maybe as well would like to hear more on comments, questions, which I will be very happy to contribute. We are been engaged in Turkey before, during, and also after the facility era. And yeah, maybe I will stop from that. Another point, which also reflecting on the elements related to coordination. We are from DG ECHO working with, let's say, the so-called international institutions such as the UN, international organization, which has we are part of the FPA. Well, it's a bit of internal jargon, but not to forget that we are supporting overall more than 80 local organizations who are providing significant humanitarian response in Turkey. So over to you, Murat, and again, happy to answer to any questions related to the humanitarian response in the support of the refugees in Turkey. Over.
Thank you for your kind words. Actually, we didn't plan to have any Q&A session due to the lack of time. It is always hard to sit in front of a computer like more than 2 hours. So if you have any questions or waivers, you can put it down in the YouTube link, and we would be happy to answer them if we have the right answers. We don't have the right answers for any questions. So we are moving forward, and we are moving forward to this lovely lady waiting for so long. She's been waiting like 2 hours maybe. Alexandra Stiglmaier, European Stability Initiative Secretary General. Thank you for your patience as well. I know that you played on this topic, on this migration statement. Let me ask you this. There's a criticism that this statement only provided a short-time solution. Do you agree with that criticism? And I'm here to hear your thoughts about on this migration deal as well. You have to put your microphone on. I'm sorry, you have to put your microphone on before speaking. Okay. That's it, loud and clear. Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem.
First of all, thank you for inviting me to this event, which has been very interesting. So I don't think that I've wasted 2 hours waiting for it. On your question, no, we don't think that the EU-Turkey statement was, because at the moment it doesn't really exist, a short-term solution implemented as envisaged. Not necessarily in terms of that the Turkey didn't get visa liberalization, there was no modernization of customs union, but looking at the migration parts, Greece has never done what it's supposed to do. I mean, Greece's role in the agreement was to examine the asylum claims of refugees and migrants who arrived on Greek islands, and to send back those for whom Turkey is safe, as well as rejected asylum seekers or irregular migrants who never asked for asylum. But as we know, Greece has sent back only 2,000 people during the entire 4 years during which the agreement was functional. And instead, Greece has used other methods to deter refugees, which is the terrible conditions that exist on the Greek islands, and which are still terrible even today, even though the number has fallen. It means that people were on the islands for extended periods of time, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Their asylum claim was not resolved, all the reception facilities were overcrowded. There has never been proper medical care, and I mean, conditions have been awful. And this brings me to one major issue why we think that it's extremely important for the EU to renew the agreement, which is if the EU wants to live up to its own laws and European values, it needs the agreement. Because what has happened since the agreement basically collapsed a year ago is that Greece has used pushbacks to keep arrival numbers low. And several speakers have said that that means when refugee boats arrive in Greek waters, the Hellenic Coast Guard or unmasked men, destroy the engine, tow it back to Turkish waters and let it drift. Or there have been cases where they rounded up people who already reached the Greek island and put them on life rafts without an engine and towed them back. And these pushbacks have been very well documented by the Turkish Coast Guard, which says that it has evidence of 9,000 people who were pushed back since March 2020 until December. And they're also confirmed by independent NGOs like Alarm Phone or Mare Liberum. And they are completely illegal under EU law. I mean, there's no doubt that they are illegal. And they are also illegal under the UN Refugee Convention. And as the legal counsel said, the Commission has been mute on that, which I think is reason why neither the Commission nor EU member states have any idea how to reduce irregular migration otherwise. While we think that cooperation with neighboring countries, and especially Turkey, is the way to do it. And you can do it in a way that is legally sound and humane by actually doing it as the agreement was envisaged, by examining the claims of people who arrive on Greek islands and then send back those who do not qualify for protection in the EU. And we also have a few suggestions how a new agreement should be slightly modified. So this element remains, examination of claims of people arriving in Greece and sending back those who don't arrive. But we think it would be important as a new element to establish an independent monitoring mechanism in Turkey that can confirm that people are treated well in line with European Convention on Human Rights when they're sent back to Turkey. I think especially Syrians are, but to give the Greek Asylum Service the confidence that they are, it would be good that there is a body that confirms that. Secondly, it would be also good to not only send back Syrians, but send back also other asylum seekers. At the moment, Turkey accepts asylum claims from non-Syrians like Afghans, Iraqis, but very few ever get a decision. So it would be important that Turkey starts deciding these claims, or if it is overwhelmed, it could re-establish cooperation with UNHCR, which it had until a few years ago when the GMM took over the tasks of UNHCR. Then other important elements of the new agreement would be resettlement of refugees in Turkey to other EU member states. We've heard that so far 28,000 people have been resettled, but as the Deputy Foreign Minister said, it's a very small number compared to 3.6 million Syrian refugees in Turkey and another 400,000 other refugees. And there must, of course, be new EU funding, significant funding, and long-term funding. It should again be agreed over a certain amount of years. I also think that the new agreement should provide more help for Syrians inside Syria along the border with Turkey, mainly Idlib province, because the humanitarian conditions there are terrible. And there should also be contingency planning for maybe taking some refugees out of there to EU member states, because a lot of them are very vulnerable and will not find the suitable conditions they need in the area. And lastly, I think it would be also good if the EU and Turkey considered extending the agreement to the land border, because at the moment it only applies to people who reach Greece via the sea and land on a Greek island, while it does not extend to the land border. Now, migration via the land border has never been very large. And if there was an agreement like the one, like EU-Turkey Statement 2.0, at land border, the numbers would even fall further. And I also think that it's very important that as a first step, the new agreement focuses only on migration-related things. Because, I mean, I know this 2016 agreement also had the modernization of the customs union and the visa liberalization and accession talks in it. But each of these topics are quite difficult, and it would be good to take them out and say, let's start with something which is quite easy, where we had good cooperation, especially from Turkey's side, and then we can resolve the other issues. Because if both sides bring to the negotiating table all these other issues, and from the EU side, of course, also Turkey's oil drilling and exploration activities in the Eastern Med, we will never have an agreement. So let's focus on this area where agreement can be hopefully reached and resolve everything else then as a next step or in parallel, whatever the sides decide, but separately from it. And my hope is really that there is a new agreement, because otherwise the EU will become a real fortress where Greece and also other countries do it, Malta, Spain and Ceuta, Melilla, Italy by proxy with the Libyan Coast Guard, where they push back refugees and where it's impossible to get asylum in a humane and legal way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Alexandra Stiglmeier, thank you for sparing some time and contributing this online event. You underlined many important issues while speaking. I noted them duly. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution, and thank you for being here and supporting our online event. We heard some precious thoughts, both from the EU side and Turkey side, standing points. They are clear, I think. Our intention is to contribute contribution to this improvement status of this statement. So we will have one more speaker awaiting, but he would be here normally, Samuel Doveri-Westerby, Managing Director of the European Neighborhood Council. He would be here in person, but unfortunately he got a call from the Commission and asked for his presence for a meeting, but he was kind enough to send us a video. Let's hear what Samuel has to say in his video, and then we will close the session as well.
Hello everyone, merhaba. Hello İpek, hello organizers. Thank you very much for inviting me, and my apologies for not being able to be here today, but I can be here virtually. And I'd like to thank you, first of all, for inviting me to the 5th year of the EU-Turkey Migration Statement event, which puts the agreement into historical perspective with some practical
I cannot hear
and
what
Sammy says.
Yes, I cannot
First of all, I'd like to, of course, say that I'm not a specific expert on migration, but I'm the director of the European Neighbourhood Council. And here we research and implement projects that, of course, concern migration, that concern EU-Turkey relations more broadly, and a variety of other areas which are both directly and indirectly related to EU-Turkey relations, like Central Asia, democracy training programs and research on COVID and the impact on migration, for example, within the neighborhood. So maybe I could just start very briefly by telling a small anecdote, because when I first spoke to Fuat Oktay and was allowed to visit multiple refugee camps and bring an EU film crew as well as EU university researchers inside the Turkish refugee camps, that was back in 2015, it was still over half a year before the March statement would be signed. And at the time, much of the effort was still being made inside the refugee camps. A lot of the funds were going to the refugees who were living in the camps, while, of course, for anyone who's been following the migration situation in Turkey over the last years, a lot of that funding has then moved into labor, medicinal, hospital, healthcare, let's say, education efforts in most kind of urban cities. And that is, of course, as a result of the EU funding, which has today helped millions of people who have fled war and conflict and who are today hosted by Turkey. I would like to briefly pay attention to why the EU and Turkey must not only continue working on funding and refugees in terms of schooling and further education, jobs and health, but equally consider the origins of why these refugees and why these people are fleeing their countries. Because, of course, there are no refugees without wars, and today there are an increasing number of tense and escalating regions in the Middle East, in Central Asia, in Africa, and elsewhere, which necessitate both EU and Turkish attention and de-escalation in terms of conflict. The Uyghurs in China may be on the brink of an even larger humanitarian crisis with severe migratory implications, while the frail peace process in Afghanistan, for example, remains a fundamental uncertainty. And really, here there is a big potential for stronger Turkish and EU cooperation, especially under the banner of NATO. In Central Asia alone, the repercussions of forced migration remain a very serious concern, and we released a large-scale quantitative and qualitative research really as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, in which we looked at the different kind of impacts on vulnerable communities in the Central Asian region, all countries with the exception of Turkmenistan, and it really clearly showed the socioeconomic slump and what that will mean in terms of socioeconomic income and safety nets for labor migrants especially, but also for ethnic minorities and most importantly perhaps groups which are defined as refugees and stateless people. Let me quote just a small figure from the recent publication which I co-authored back in December with regards to the impact of COVID on migration in vulnerable communities, which really have traditionally left in great waves to Turkey and to the European Union. Quote opened, refugees and stateless people saw the biggest impact of COVID, with the poorest and least educated being statistically the most vulnerable, most likely to move, most likely to face the socioeconomic challenges in the entire region. Refugees and stateless people remain the poorest, least educated, and most vulnerable, as 63% report having low income and only 1% report undergoing any type of university education in Central Asia as of 2020. So I think it's perhaps relative also to, as I mentioned before, to go beyond the simple parameters of the EU and Turkey, and to remember that all of these refugees and the migration waves have a place of origin, and all of these places suffer from one form or another of socioeconomic depression or of conflict and other misfortunes. So I'll simply end by adding that the new positive agenda between the EU and Turkey should prioritize, of course, stability and the reduction in conflict throughout the shared neighborhood, and continued cooperation on funding and migration remains an absolute essential necessity for a long for as long as these conflicts continue to exist, but it should also be seen as a potential to support and promote a more positive agenda between the EU and Turkey more broadly, particularly in a moment in which economic relations, security relations, and political relations are more necessary between the EU and Turkey than ever. So thank you very much to the organizers again, and thank you so much for İpek as well, and for the other speakers who are here. I hope you have a continued good event, and I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon, hopefully. Thank you. Bye.
Viewers on YouTube, and this is a good number. And we have come to an end to the second session as well. As I mentioned before, we heard precious thoughts coming from both parties of this statement. Yes, it needs to be improved. That's clear. That we can agree on the base. This statement needs improvement, and our intention today was to contribute the improvement process of this statement, the 5th year of the EU-Turkey statement on migration, I mean. Thank you for all our distinguished guests for sparing time, contributing, listening, and adding value to this online event. And we have come to an end. If you have any questions, we have this YouTube link related to this video. You can put it right down to the link, YouTube link. I mean, we can we will be more than happy to answer if you have any questions related to this topic. And thanks again, many thanks again for contributing this session, which is hosted by EU-Turkey Friendship Group and ASAM Brussels office and ASAM headquarters as well. Thank you. Hope to see you again in a short notice, in person maybe, if COVID releases us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.